What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of the Vibe Exchange. I'm your host, Joseph Tucker, and we are presented today by Vibe AV. And today I am really excited. Our guest today is an agency owner who has built a multi-seven-figure company over the past 10 years. I've seen him do it. This isn't just spoof. He and his team have helped hundreds of companies from private ski resorts to ortho practices build their brands and establish themselves across the US and across Canada. He's a husband, he's a father, and he's also a very, very close friend of mine. Founder and CEO of Hueston, Michael Williams. If this is where I had a DJ thing or a hand clap, this is where it would have gone off. What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Hey man, I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you on. Happy to have you on. So Mike, I like to start. Well, first off, you grew up around a ton of construction. You grew up around a ton of development, but you chose the digital development side. So I want to know, in that aspect, what's the vibe in your world right now? What's the vibe in the web dev industry at this moment?
Yeah. So I mean, to give some context to my upbringing, I won't take it too far back, but my family is all, like Joseph said, like in development, but really like they started, decades ago in garbage and waste management and recycling. And that kind of like evolved into environmental remediation and that type of stuff. And then by the time it got to me, my first job was working for my dad and my uncle's company. They did demolition and remediation. And so I was working in the shop at 13. And my first job was to blowtorch the tracks off of their biggest excavator. And it was like a whole summer project. It took me all summer to do. Out there in the heat, you've got sparks flying everywhere, burning through your coveralls. I still have little, burn marks on my arm from doing it. So I'm really that's like my growing up story a little bit. But I remember being there that first summer that I worked there. And one of the guys in the shop, Pat, is a brilliant guy. And he's been working with my family for, probably longer than I've been alive. And he said, Michael, I want you to do this and do it with all of your heart, but know that if you don't go to college, you're probably going to continue to be doing this. And I was like, at the time, it was like college was this, thing that you had to do. I think it's that, some of that, the feelings about college and university are changing as we progress. At the time, I was like, I don't, this was fun and it's a fun story, but I didn't love the work. And I think if I understood more of it back then, I probably would be more excited about it, like what the work we were doing made a way for. Right. But I didn't make that connection. And so it wasn't really something I was excited about. But I worked in construction for, probably until I was on the construction side of it. Probably until I was 23, 22. Yeah. And then after I graduated college, I went back and worked with them in a sales role. And the reason why I ended up getting into the work that I'm doing right now is because the work that I was doing for them, all respect to my family, all respect to construction people across the world, but they're generally not known for their design and branding skills. So the marketing materials and the stuff that I had to work with in a sales role and a business development role was not great, and so I kind of took it upon myself to rebuild their materials, rebuild their website, kind of clarify their branding a bit. And in the process of doing that, I found out that I was actually pretty good at some of this stuff and really enjoyed it. And so I kind of have this construction, demolition background, but really never loved that type of work. And also I've always been pretty artistic. Music was a big part of my upbringing and still a big part of my life. And so that kind of creative artistic, side of me was really fulfilled in the creative marketing branding world. And so I think to answer your question, what's the vibe in my world right now? Well, the vibe in my world right now is much different than it's ever been. But I also think it's very similar to other worlds. I'm sure yours as well, Joe. Everyone, is trying to keep up with AI.
Yes.
Yes. Marketing and creative work is changing a ton. The way it's approached is changing. The way it's being, the amount of stuff that you can create now with AI being a part of it, it's kind of it's very strange. I don't even know how else to put it. It's very strange. But I think at the end of the day, any company, whether we work in professional services or not, you need to be locked in on the best outcomes for your clients.
Right.
So I think AI gives way to a lot of, or it can give way to a lot of laziness or a
Yeah.
lot of like things that you do using AI to make your life easier as a business owner or as a
Yeah.
somebody who is, being paid to serve somebody else.
Yes.
But I think if you do that, and what we're seeing or what we have seen with other companies, especially, is you risk losing clients because you're trying to make your life more convenient,
Ooh. Yes.
and that is
Yes.
a very. I
Yes.
mean, I spend a lot of time
Yes.
thinking about that.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, agencies by and large are very tech forward.
Yeah.
So, and they, or if they're not, they should be. So for us, I mean, we've been experimenting with AI tools for 3 or 4 years now, and I think the vibe in my world right now is figuring out how to balance leveraging AI and also still and utilizing it really to empower companies to serve people and their companies better.
Yeah.
But it is a
That's good.
narrow road, like most things, it's a narrow road where like on one side, it's really easy to be lazy and still, you're still completing the task, but by doing it the lazy way, you
Yeah.
risk, pardon my French, a crap product
Yeah.
and potentially a crap customer experience. But then on the other side, you've got the old way of doing things, which is very manual. It's very labor intensive, which means your
Hmm.
capacity and your competitiveness is
Hmm.
reduced because your capacity is more limited. So I think that's the vibe in my world right now. Obviously, like
Yeah.
I'm one of, hundreds of thousands of agencies, I'm sure, nationwide, worldwide. But as far as my world's concerned, that's really where a lot of our time and attention is going to, is kind of how to handle that balance of
Yeah.
um, leverage and increased capacity and creativity without the atrophy of the mind and
Right.
without the losing the personal touch and losing the customer experience and losing really the outcomes that they're looking for. So
Yeah.
anyways.
No, no, that's great. So I'm sure people who are listening can kind of see how Houston came to life. And I think you touched on something in that intro of just like what's the vibe in your world right now that I'm
Mhm.
not sure listeners maybe have caught on to. Not only are you guys, Houston and the agency, leveraging and utilizing and building figuring out how to build the brand correctly through AI, but you're helping a lot of your clients do the same thing because they're asking the questions, how does this work? What do I do? How do I even get found on AI searches? How do I
Sure.
leverage these things? Is that correct? So you're actually helping your clients, not just you guys like Houston, but you're helping your clients, which you have lots of them, that figure out how to actually use this Swiss Army knife of tools that's in their
Sure.
hand that everyone's trying to figure out how do all of these things work? Is that right?
I mean, yeah, to a degree, I would say that like we wouldn't consider ourselves like AI consultants by any means.
Hmm.
But I think almost by default, because we are, like I said, agencies and people in my position are tend to be very like tech forward and like
Hmm.
tech curious, which I know you very much the same way, Joe. Uh,
100%.
so by default, we end up kind of consulting with our clients and really educating them on, because a lot of times, like their world, like you mentioned, like private ski clubs and orthodontists, like we do a lot of work. We work primarily with one private ski club and several orthodontists, but they're
Hmm.
focused on making sure their members have a great ski experience and making sure the snow is good and that coffee's hot. And then orthos are focused on making sure that their patients have a good experience and their teeth are getting
Right.
straightened and their kids' airways opening up and all these types of
Right.
things.
Right.
And so they're not focused on how do I leverage AI for marketing? How do
Sure.
I leverage AI for anything for the most part? I mean, I think a lot
Sure.
of people are using it in more of like a day to day basis, like, hey, give me a meal plan or, like how
Yeah.
many miles would it take to, does it take to walk from here to Hawaii? Like the silly questions like that we used to reference Google for, we tend to use Chat GPT and things like that for now. But I think for what we do is really try to like educate and like bring them along with us because we're by no means like the experts,
Right.
and the thing
Right.
is like everything is changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
hard to
Even
be an
for
AI
us.
expert.
Oh, I mean, yeah, like I would never, I don't know that I could ever get to that point. I don't have enough time. I don't have, I couldn't. But as we are kind of like fumbling forward in a lot of ways and just continuing to explore,
Yeah.
by default, our clients kind of you know, get the condensed, Cole's Notes version of
Yeah.
the stuff that we're learning. And then also the application of that. I know you mentioned like, um, like being found on AI search results. So that's a big thing that we do for our clients. Like
Super important.
the new version of SEO, or like kind of like the flip side of the SEO coin. Before it was about ranking on Google, and now it's still about ranking on Google, but a lot of searches, a lot of queries, a lot of questions are being directed towards these AI tools. And we
Right.
want to make sure that your company shows up in both places. The cool thing
Right.
about, without going too far down that road, but the cool thing about AI tools is that there is this like almost like the illusion of research being done. Before research it was done like in a library
Hmm.
and doing all this digging and reading, and
Yeah.
now it's like you're able to do so much like research
Yes.
with a simple question or prompt. And so
Yes.
because you're doing that, when AI tools recommend your business, there was a study that was done earlier in the year. They're actually over 4 times more likely to convert into a customer if they find your business on AI tools.
Okay, let's just pause there. Over
Sure.
4 times likely to convert if a customer finds your business as a recommendation for their
Hmm.
search
Hmm.
through AI tools.
Yes.
That's wild.
Wild. Yeah.
That's wild. Wow.
Now
So
it's no different
wow.
than Google, because it doesn't, like Google, I'm sorry to ruin your guys' day, but like Google doesn't give you the best company. It gives
Right.
you the most relevant company for the search that you put in. And so
Mm,
for the query that you
mm,
asked it.
mhm.
GPT and all these other platforms are the same thing. They just give you the company who has the most trust, perceived trust and authority on
Yeah.
the internet. And so they say
Wow.
these people it's close enough. It's the closest we could find. And so we're going to recommend these people, but it doesn't mean they're the best. It just means they've done the best job of positioning themselves
Right.
to be cited by Google and cited by AI tools. And
Right.
so just because you see yourself as a David in whatever industry you're in, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean you can't compete against the Goliaths. Like
Yes.
an AI webinar a few months ago, and Jeremy, CMO, he did a little test, and he was able to get Houston ranking above the White House for AI governance. Now, it was more of like let's test this out. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Uh,
So they're not going to come arrest you for this. This was a
no, I
test.
don't. No, no, no. It's just a test, and it still might be
Just to
there. But like
prove, just to
on
prove that it works.
Perplexity, yeah, on Perplexity, we Jeremy worked some of his magic. He'd published some content and structured it in a particular way.
Yeah.
And now, like I'm sure it's still there. I haven't checked it in a while because it's really not relevant for us. But we were ranking #1 for AI governance searches on Perplexity above the White House. And
Okay.
so, are we the best? Absolutely not. But we have the
Right.
best structured content answering the questions
Right.
that people are asking, and so therefore we were cited.
Okay, I think you said a lot there, and I think you struck gold in a lot of different ways. I grasp some of it, but I want to dive in on one point that you said that I think may help anyone watching this.
Okay.
More than likely, anyone watching this video probably has a company to some degree, or they're involved in the company enough to where they care about having a perceived brand authority and
Sure.
a trust factor
Hmm.
associated with their business or the company that they work for. So,
Yeah.
by the way, I'll find a way to put that link somehow to that webinar that you did. If you get that to me, I want to attach
Sure.
that somehow just so
Yeah.
people can find that. I feel like that would be very valuable. And that example is just insane. Um, but okay, so let's say I'm a Bob and I own a construction company,
Okay.
or let's say I'm a Stacy and I work for marketing for a sub-tier company. So obviously I care about okay, AI, I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay. I know it's important, but what you just said about finding a way to build my brand in a way that establishes my authority and trust, how does one go about that? Like strategically, because if they were that simple, everyone would be doing it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, how do I answer this quickly? It's actually
And
not as complicated as you would think.
okay.
So there are some technical components, like to your website, for example, um, for sure. Like schema is
Yeah.
super important. Making sure Google and these tools know how to read the different aspects of your website. So that's like
And Mike, we're assuming I actually am a trustworthy, reputable company. Of course, we're actually assuming that I actually am one.
that is the assumption and the hope. But honestly, like all of this is really it's just utilizing the way these tools search and validate information to make sure they're they're finding you, and that you're giving them what they want. And so it's not it's it, it, you should be a trustworthy and reputable company. You should be, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, you don't actually need to be.
Hmm. Wow.
You
That's
can play the right game, right? Like, I mean, if you play the game properly, you can still win. Now, I don't think long term that pays off. I don't recommend you being, dishonest or, lacking
for sure.
integrity. However, you
It's an
you
equal
kind of
playing field, is what you're saying.
I think that's a better way of looking at it. It's an equal playing field.
Wow.
And all of these companies are having to make everybody around the world is having to make adjustments to their marketing, their positioning, their branding strategy, to make sure that these tools are referencing
Yeah.
them. And so part of that is, yes, on-site stuff for sure. There's technical stuff that needs to happen on-site, but a lot of it is also just like what would generate trust to other humans. So your social
Yes.
media is very important. YouTube
Yeah.
is very important, actually.
Wow.
In the scale of or in the list of things that Perplexity specifically and GPT prioritize, YouTube's almost is up there as almost the highest. So
Wow.
making sure that you've got YouTube videos that are answering questions, right? Like answer first architecture is one of the terms that's thrown around in our world. So making
Mhm.
sure you're answering questions that people are asking. So there's tools that you can use to kind of mine the different questions, at least relatively speaking, that people are asking, and then you make sure that you do a good job answering those questions.
Right.
And so it's similar. It's other AI is kind of like a human, right? Like a human is going to use the easiest path to get to the thing that it wants,
I
right?
think that just freaked a
It's
lot of people out, Mike.
yeah, yeah. I think there's more scary stuff coming, but
Yeah.
uh, I can't speak to that. But it's going to use the easiest path to find the most valuable information that it can find, right? Like if you can grab a bottle of water out of the fridge right over here, or you have to go down the hall and pay for
Right.
something, you're going to go to the fridge
Right.
every single time.
Right.
There's
Right.
too much friction down there. It
Right.
costs too much to go get that. I'm going to go to this one. And so I think with AI, you want to be able to structure your content and your data, your information in a way that it is easy for it to find and then to digest and then to recommend. So that's very, very high level, but it's about ease of access and making sure what it's accessing is stuff that's relevant to what people are looking for.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I feel like that helps I would imagine that this is such a deep topic that you could go on for
Oh man.
hours, if not days. But I feel like that's enough high level, just kind of motivation, hopefully, for folks to want to figure out. Obviously, there are agencies like yourself who can more so help people out, but also just like be open to the idea that, all right, this does affect my credibility, my trust rankings, how people are finding me, not
Yes.
just the old school way of marketing and doing things, which to be honest, there may be companies who just came around to doing it the old school way, the Google and the
Sure.
Facebook and the SEO way. And now they may be confronted with the fact that they have to learn a new way. Is that like
Mhm.
a huge jump, or is it something that's recommended? And do you feel like this is where everyone will have to be at some point?
I think I'm careful not to say there's like an old way and a new way. It's kind of just like if you think about like a snow plow, right? Like as that snow plow goes, it starts with a little bit of snow. Any of you or who are in the Northeast, Buffalo in particular, you'll
Mhm.
get this, right? You see a snow plow starting, and then there's a bunch of snow right at the beginning. And then as you keep going, there's more snow that just kind of, as you go, the more snow fills in the blade. So it's kind of like that. You kind of have to take what you know and then continue to add more to it, but it
Mhm.
all serves the same purpose. And you said it really well, Joe. Like trust, building trust. Everything that you do, especially online and in marketing generally, is mostly about building trust. And so the more trust you can build with people and robots, the
Mhm.
more you win,
Mhm.
right? Like trust, if you look at like AI tools as like a something to hack or manipulate, like that's fine. And I think
Mhm.
there is part of that. Like there is like the manipulation of these tools to
Yeah.
favor you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you need to be looking beyond the tool and to the human on the other side of it,
Wow.
where
Mhm.
the key core foundational thing that is going to make your business do well is trust. There's a million things that go into building trust. You
Yeah.
actually have to be good, because if you're not good, then the people you do work with are going to tell other people, hey, these
Right.
guys suck. And that erodes your trust. But on the flip
Yeah.
side, if you do good work and you have people telling other people, hey, these guys are great, well, that earns trust.
Yeah.
right? Like think about like a babysitter.
Yes.
Like I'm not going to let some person watch my kids who I don't know.
Right.
They have to not only, I need references from other
Yes.
people. I need to
Yep.
understand what their values are. And I need to also see those values demonstrated before I let them in a room with my kids. You
Yes.
know, I
100%.
think it's the same. And like, if you think about business owners,
Hmm.
my business is like my third child. You know what I'm saying? Like in a lot of ways, it's my third child. And so like, I'm not just going to give money to somebody who has not established trust. The way you
Yeah.
establish trust is just like you do with humans. You do the
Okay.
same thing consistently, the same right things consistently.
Hmm.
So for you business owners or folks out there, like post content on social that helps
Just,
people show who you are, what your values are,
yeah.
and show them about clients, people that you've worked with who say good things about you. It's
So
very simple,
that's a practical thing that people can do,
very
even if they
practical.
feel, because I think some people, all right, so posting content that answers questions and helps people and shows how you helped other people, is that kind of like something like that
If
ish?
you had to sum up like the best marketing strategy in the world,
Yeah.
you just did it, right?
Wow.
Like
Okay.
it's easy to overcomplicate stuff, and man,
Yeah.
can you get in the weeds with it? And there's a crazy, amazing stuff that you can do. But if you're doing all these tactics and strategies and cool crap that you see on the internet, like that's fine. But if you're not doing this basic stuff, forget
Yeah.
about all that. It is about what problems do people have? How do
Hmm.
you solve those problems? And how can you show those people, number one, you understand them.
Yep. Yep.
Number two, you have essentially crossed over, this, let's say this body of water
Hmm.
that seems treacherous. You've
Yeah.
crossed over, and then you build the bridge so that they could cross much easier. So you get them, and you've built something for them with them in mind to be able to help them.
Okay.
And
Can
here's
I?
all the examples of other people who have had that
Yeah.
same experience walking across that bridge. It's all about foundational building trust. You're going to do just fine if that's all you focus on. Now, if you want to get into more advanced stuff, for sure, that's going to help you. But if you focus on building trust with people and doing the right things technically to build trust with robots, I mean, that's more than half the battle.
Hmm. So what should be my, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question. What should be my motivation when posting content? I think you mentioned it, but here's why I asked this. I think oftentimes, yeah, there's people who are just naturals on camera. We all know
Mhm.
that there's some folks like that. There's some people who are just natural in marketing. They're super comfortable.
Sure.
They have no problem doing it. I think most people, like you said, can get in the weeds and overthink it and think it's almost like selfish and they're self-promoting and they're thinking about how this is all just pointing back to me and my company. And so they don't want to do it because it almost feels the opposite of being genuine and bringing value. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? And I
of
think a lot of
course.
people can get stuck there. So like what would be I don't know, I don't want to say like a checklist or a thought pattern, but something I should like work myself through for those, let's say for folks who aren't comfortable posting content. Because I know
Yeah.
that there's tons of good, trustworthy, reputable, successful companies who maybe you're watching this that you're just not comfortable posting content. Like
Mhm.
what would be a motivating factor for me in order to do that? Would it be like helping the other person? And I know that that's probably another loaded question, but is there like one or two things that maybe,
Yeah.
Bob and Stacy can start to think about?
So I don't know that I'm the best person to answer this question because I mean, I can answer it correctly, but I also don't do some of the stuff that I would say. So, I mean, you can take this with a grain of salt, but like, you need to understand what motivates you.
Okay.
And if your motivations are to help people, are to solve people's problems, and you're actually doing that, then sharing stories about you helping people and solving their problems is kind of a layup. I mean, it's just
Right.
it's an easy thing to do. If you don't feel comfortable on camera, that's something that you can get comfortable with, but you have to practice like anything else.
Yeah.
If you feel like it's kind of like, whatever, making yourself seem,
Like, look at me, look at what we
yeah,
did,
like it's
that kind of thing.
exactly. If that's kind of like, if you're concerned about that, I totally get that. I feel very much the same way. If I had it my way, I would be much more private, just doing things in private. And, I'll get a pat on the back from my wife or from, my team or from my clients or whatever. But it can feel a little bit like awkward
Mhm.
to talk about yourself. So I think there's a need for you to do it and be okay with it. The fact that it feels a little bit weird. And I think you get comfortable with it. But also I think it's important you have people around you who are like willing to check you. Like, if you start getting weird and you start getting like all high on yourself, like it's
Yeah.
important to have people around you who will shoot you straight and be like, hey man, like I think
Too many graphics, too many effects.
yeah. Well, you're maybe veering off a little bit. I don't think you've lost your way, but I think you need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah. That's
So
good.
I think, with social media at all, you need to have, if you're going to be doing content creation, that type of stuff, you need to have people who are going to be honest with you. Uh,
Hmm.
Life in general, it's probably a good
Yes.
life lesson. So I think like I
Definitely.
would encourage you also the best thing that I think you could do if you're like, hey, I want to start creating content. I know it's important for my business. I know it's important for generating trust with my clients and with AI
Mhm.
tools and whatever. Put out a list of questions. Start answering those questions. That's the
Okay.
easiest thing you can do. Oh, like
Questions
even
that
to
your customer may have.
questions that your customer would have. A team we're working with, we help them to put together like a list of all those questions based on what we could tell, like terms that they were ranking on page 2 through 4 on Google. So like this means like they're really not getting a lot of traffic or attention from those specific terms. But if we can move them to page 1, they would get a lot more traffic and attention. And so
Okay.
we developed questions around the terms that we wanted to move from page 2 to page 4 or page 2 to page 1. And now we're helping them. We wrote the scripts and these types of things, but they're filming
Hmm.
videos answering those questions. So those videos are going to go on their website. It's a simple 45-second video of somebody saying, what is the difference? What is, if, whatever, I don't want to tell you too much about their business, but like, what are the
Right.
benefits of using this product over this product?
Right. Okay.
Well, the
Okay.
benefits of using this product over this product is this, and it gets
Yep.
you this, and it gets your customers this, and it, whatever.
Yep.
Very,
Yep.
very simple, very, very easy to do. Doesn't have to be a fancy video, but that
Yep.
video posted on their website on YouTube, and now it can be used on socials or other social channels like Instagram, whatever else. That
Yes.
is a simple way for number one, you to educate your customers or your future customers on what you do, how you handle things. It's a good way to demonstrate authority and trust just because you are answering questions that people are having, and the
Hmm.
robots love it. So
Yeah.
it's also, you don't have to think about some clever way of, making a viral video. Like you'll drive yourself
Yeah.
mad doing that. And if that's not like what
Oh
you're
man.
into, like some people are, they are entertainers and they're comedians and they're, wildly creative and brilliant.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe that's not you. I don't think that's definitely not me. It's definitely not me. But I think doing a lot of this stuff is doing the consistent, boring things
Hmm.
over and over and over again to build
Hmm.
trust. I mean, that's how
That's
you
good.
build trust between people, right? It's like
Yeah.
if one day I see you and you're up, the other day I see you, you're down. The next time I see you, you're like wanting to go steal something. The other day we're going to church together. Like it's very inconsistent. And like,
Who
not
are
that I
you?
don't, yeah, it's like I can't get a feel for who the heck you actually are.
Right.
And you make me, generally uncomfortable. I
Yes.
love you.
Yeah.
You seem like a
Yeah.
fine person, but there's no trust that has been established yet because there's no consistency. So
Right.
if you can just be consistent and be honest, like you don't have to do anything that isn't
Hmm.
you. The more
Hmm.
genuine you are as a person, the more people are going to trust you, even if you're boring.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
you don't have to be something else. You just have
Yeah.
to be yourself and you have to talk like you know what you're talking about. If you don't know
Hmm.
what you're talking about, well, you should figure out what you're talking about or figure that part
Oh
out.
man.
But if you
That's
know what
good.
you're talking about and you got some experience under your belt, just
Yeah.
answer those questions to the best
That's
of your
good.
ability. And you'll get better at communicating as you do it more. So part of it is like you could be a very trustworthy person, but not know how to communicate it well. Well, there's great
Hmm.
courses and classes and
Hmm.
blogs and podcasts and things that you can do to become a better communicator. And
Yeah.
so, but you'll never do that unless you start practicing. So I think to answer your question, the best thing you can do is just do something and
Yeah.
just and
That's
find. I
good.
think the question thing is the easiest layup you could ever, you could start with.
Yeah.
Find
That's so
questions,
good. Yeah.
answer those questions, write those questions on your website because AI tools love FAQs.
Hmm.
Answer those
Oh wow.
questions in video format because
Okay.
people and AI tools love that. And it's also
Okay.
good reps for you to just get comfortable speaking on camera,
Yeah.
articulating what you want to say clearly and with some level of, dynamicness if
Yeah.
possible. And just start there.
Okay.
Start there.
So all right. So starting there and just being consistent, like getting started, starting where you are, not trying to be someone else, being
Yeah.
authentic, answering questions, solving problems, which is exactly how most folks have built their business.
Right.
anyways,
For
just a
sure.
different way. So it sounds like, Mike, to me that there is a lot of this that is DIY, do it yourself. To
Y-
begin, it sounds like
For
there's
sure.
all right.
Now, and
So
it doesn't have to be like you can hire people to do it, but you end up paying for other people to do it, and you never build the muscle of doing it.
right,
So I think it's
right,
good to have like people who help you. Like
yeah,
I think feeling like you're doing it alone sucks, but like maybe you need a team to like help you write scripts or help you edit,
yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe you need someone on your team in your office to like help you with posting and that type of stuff. But I think
yeah,
like uh it is a bit DIY, but that also it builds some grit in you, and it
yeah.
helps you to own the process. Because if you offload it to somebody else, it's not going to get done the way you'd want it, and then most of the
Hmm.
time you're frustrated by that.
Yeah. This is good and interesting because I think a lot of folks who are at least in my market, like
Mhm.
we don't, not that we don't condone it, but DIY doesn't usually go well in construction development or AV
Sure,
projects. It
sure.
doesn't usually go well. But this is exciting. It's like something, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, like you can start to do and start to it's gonna sound funny, make a friend with your robot and
Yes,
build that trust and authority. I think that's pretty, I think it almost puts the power back in your hands instead of feeling like you're at mercy of wherever AI goes in the future and your company is at the mercy
totally,
of
totally.
some AI and monsoon just sweeping over you.
For
Okay.
sure. And I mean, everybody's got a phone in their pocket. You can
Right.
film yourself fairly easily. Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah, like nobody likes doing it initially, but it's a good thing to do, and
Yeah.
it will help your business, and it will help you to communicate better. But I realize that like this is kind of like an annoying response. Um, I don't like when I listen to podcasts or hear from so-called experts, and they just tell me to like do the fundamental,
Just do it.
basic, consistent things that I already know
Just
to
do
do,
it.
but I'm not
Yeah.
doing. It's like I
Right.
want you to give me the juicy, sweet thing that I can do that is like
Yep.
this, like,
Yep.
unfortunately,
Yep.
like anytime I have shot for that juicy, sweet, special strategy,
Yeah.
maybe you get a hit, maybe you don't, but
Mhm.
it ends up not going well if the
Mhm.
foundational stuff isn't there.
Yeah.
You
You're
know,
right. You're
like
right.
you could it's like, you know, getting an amazing Christmas present for your wife,
Mhm.
but the rest of the year you suck. The rest of the year you're ignoring her, and you're not pleasant, and you're not,
Oh, yeah.
kind or forgiving or understanding. You don't listen, but it's like, yeah, but I got you a Louis Vuitton purse for Christmas. It's like, that doesn't count, bro. Like,
Yes.
so I think it's much more the consistent, steady trust building, you know, show people who you are, can figure
That's
out how
good.
to communicate that better and better, let them know how you solve their problems, and that you've built something that with them in mind for them.
Yeah.
And I think that is the life lesson, one of the most important life lessons, not just in business.
That's
The
good.
things you do consistently make so much more of a difference than the things you do every so often.
That's so good. That's so
But
good.
I think also, like,
Thank you.
doing the right, I think a part of what people struggle with, I know that myself for sure, is like, how do I know what the right things are to do?
Mhm.
Like if I'm going to do
Mhm.
something consistently, cool, I can get into a routine. That's great.
Yep.
But like, how do
Yep.
I know I'm doing the right thing?
100%.
And I think that's where conversations like this can be helpful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so
Little
anyways,
encouragement. That's
yeah.
good. Little encouragement, a little steering in the right direction. There's the target. Just start moving forward. Just start
Hmm.
moving forward. May feel a
Absolutely.
little bit weird, look a little bit weird, but hey,
Of course.
that's how you got a successful business, So
Part of the deal. Yeah.
amazing. Amazing. Mike, I got two more questions for you. I'm going to tie it into one.
Okay.
And then this will just kind of be like a parting gift to those who are listening. So I want to ask you, what are you seeing, one thing that because you have lots of clients. I know that you have some who are like smaller and you have some who are very large. Like if you said their
Hmm.
name, I'm not going to ask you to, people would be like, oh, heard of them, to
Sure.
say the least. What's one thing you're seeing clients kind of overlooking right now that might be
Hmm.
important? And
Hmm.
then also, as a business owner and as an agency owner, what's one trend or thing you're seeing, not AI, that business owners or let's say managers might want to see and pay attention to?
Okay. So question one is, what's one thing that I see clients overlooking,
Overlooking?
or
Yep.
potentially overlooking?
Yep.
Okay. I'll start with that one, and then you can remind me of the other question once I finish that one, because I don't have too much in my head.
Let's do it.
So I think, Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of like tie some of this back to stuff I've already mentioned, but I think the biggest thing, maybe not the biggest thing, one of the things I see clients missing or people, business owners missing, is that they are very focused on bottom of the funnel in sales. So like leads and closed new business. Okay.
Mm.
And that's obviously what makes the world go round. That's
Okay.
obviously
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the point that actually generates money and like lifeblood for your business.
Yeah.
There's nothing more important than that. However, how you get to that is sometimes overlooked. So like these things that we're talking about, building trust.
Hmm.
If building trust, like the goal of marketing and branding is to build trust. When trust is
Right.
built,
Okay.
people people buy from you. You know, like using that babysitter analogy. Like when if I actually don't even have a non-family babysitter because I don't know anybody who I'm like
Right.
comfortable trusting with my kids. Now, maybe that's a
Right.
personal thing. I got to work through that, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like
I think it's
people,
relatable.
and I think people are becoming less and less trusting as the days go by, right?
Hmm.
Having access
Hmm.
to so much news and so much terrible stuff that's happening all the time. We're constantly faced with like the worst of humanity.
Yeah.
And so you can tend to feel less and less trusting of people just by living in 2025.
Right. Yes.
So it
Yes.
actually is a bit of an uphill battle for your company, or can be, because they've been sold to and they've not gotten the results. They've
Hmm.
they've you know they've bought a sweet offer with a crazy guarantee and amazing promised results, and they've been let down.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
so normal and so common, and even in our world too, like the agency world, like people who do like SEO. Like, I mean, SEO is this like black box of stuff that people do, and it's so easy. It has been historically so easy for somebody who's well spoken, dynamic, charismatic to sell SEO services, and then the company doesn't know what the heck they're actually buying. They just think if I pay this guy some money, they're going to
Yeah.
get me at the front of Google, and they waste tens of thousands of dollars, and then they come out the other end and feel like, what the heck, what was that, what just
Yeah.
happened? So I
Yeah.
think like trust is this like such a valuable thing in our world because it's becoming more and more rare. So for your business, if you're only focused on bottom of the funnel sales and you're not focused on trust building, I mean, that is the trust building is the prerequisite. You could have the
Hmm.
best sales guide, you could have the best marketing strategy, you could have the best ads, you could have the best creative team, but if all those things don't go towards building trust, at the end of the day, that pipeline's going to go from this to this. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
going to be buying
Yeah.
from you. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like maybe they get in there, but it's like, this doesn't feel right. This
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. So I think back to this stuff about like consistent, putting out consistent content and making sure. And it's not just like doing it for the sake of doing it. It's like, what do my ideal customers want? First of all, you have to ask the question, do I solve that problem for them? If I
Hmm.
don't, then maybe I have to switch up my offer a little bit. If I
Hmm.
do, that's great. Maybe I need to present my offer in a different way,
Hmm.
because trust is it's a this multifaceted, nuanced thing, and it doesn't come by just doing one thing. And even if you do that thing and it worked for some person or some industry, it might not work in another industry. So you have to find out what builds trust in your industry with your types of people that you're trying to sell to, that you're trying to help. So I think the thing that clients can overlook, that people can overlook, especially when they work with a marketing agency, like I've heard it so many times before. I remember this one guy who I still am friends with and we still work with, and he's great. But he said to me, like, I'm thinking we'll turn on marketing. This is like the middle of September. He's like, I think we can turn on the marketing in October. I'm like, turn on the marketing. This thing is not a light switch.
Can
You
you
know what I'm saying?
explain
Like,
that?
this is turning on the marketing makes it seem like you just throw an ad up and like here come the leads. It's like, no,
Hmm.
turning on the like we're just flipping the switch. We're like building. We got to get the wiring done. We got to install the little switcher. We got to install the
Yeah.
dimmer.
Yep.
We got to
Yep.
make sure the power company is doing
Talking
what it
my
needs to
language
do.
now. Talking my
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's about all I can talk. So, uh, but you know what I'm saying? Like turning on marketing that's not how it works. And so some companies you come into and they've done the dues.
Hmm.
They've done the consistent work to build trust, to build a quality brand, to be consistent, not just to
Yeah.
provide good service, because that's absolutely part of it, perhaps the most important part of it. But there's all this other stuff that goes into building trust. And
Hmm.
if they've done that work, man, we can come in there and blow it out of the water for them. But if they've not
Yeah.
done that work and they expect that we're going to come in with some, magic solution to make their business succeed,
Yeah.
because the last guys didn't do a good job. It's like, well, it tends to be when somebody says the last agency we worked with was terrible, you know, there's a good chance that they're probably not going to have a good experience with us either. Now, sometimes those guys actually were terrible, uh, for sure. It does happen, but a lot of times it's like you just don't want. It's like you want to lose weight, you want to get in shape, you want to get a 6 pack. Okay, stop eating carbs, go to the gym 5 6 days a week.
Yeah. Hmm.
Drink enough water, get enough sleep, get your
Do the
stress
hard stuff
down.
consistently.
And it's like I don't want that. I want something special. I want some
Mhm.
sprinkles that you put up on top of my ice cream, and when I eat them,
Mhm.
they get me all cut up and shredded.
Jacked.
That's never how
Hmm.
I mean, that would be, glorious, but that's not how the
Yes.
world works, unfortunately. And so I think that, uh, you know, following after or like chasing after these like trends or these, you know, I don't want to call them get rich quick because it's not necessarily that's what it is. It's more just it's not wanting to do the hard work, the consistent
Hmm.
work to get the result that you want. And I
Yeah.
think that what we risk as a culture, not to get too big on it, but like what we risk as a culture with AI is that we don't require inconvenience, hard work, consistency to get the outcome we want. We think it should be I can find out any information that I want with one simple question. And that's how the rest
Right.
of life should be. I think we risk our brains atrophying, if that's a word, uh, because we're so used to how easy it is.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
think about these dudes who had to figure out how to fly. Like we're in Charlotte right now. Like the Wright brothers figured out how to fly.
Yeah.
How much
Man.
testing and try and risk and how
Yeah.
foolish their families must have thought that they were. How much time, I mean, it consumed them until they got it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how
Right.
how incredible an accomplishment that is, but how much diligence and focus and consistency it took. I think if we
Right.
could apply half of that amount of diligence and consistency to the work that we do, with the addition of AI to help
Hmm.
ideate and process and analyze and all of those amazing things and powerful things that AI can help do. If we can combine that with AI, it's ridiculous what we'll be able to accomplish. I don't know why
Yeah.
I'm talking about this right now
Yeah.
because you asked me a question about
No.
things that
No.
my clients miss. But I think the thing
This
that
is
our
good.
clients miss can be is they
Yeah.
think it's much easier than it actually is, and they don't want to do the consistent hard work to like
Right.
make. They want to bring somebody in. They want to pay for quick results, and certainly hiring somebody like our company for sure. Like we can help you
Yeah.
get there quicker, but there are
Yes.
still
Yep.
things that
Yep.
need to be done, and some of those things like we can't do for you. Like you have to do them for yourself. So.
Michael, you brought us so much heat today, man. Thank you. Thank you. I think, and I do think you answered both of those questions that I had in that last chunk. Like what was something that you're seeing your clients overlook or
Mhm.
miss? And then like what's something that you're seeing other business owners or maybe like C-suite level people uh, opportunities that they need to pay attention to,
Sure.
essentially. And so I feel like you brought a lot of value. Obviously the consistency and the importance of it, and starting
Mhm.
where you are. And I think you talked about how we need to, for lack of better words, get our robots to trust us,
Yeah.
because we want people to trust us, and we're out here to
Yes.
do a good job and to help our clients. That's literally, and solve problems for them. That's literally what we care about.
Mhm.
And it seems like AI, what you're telling us is like AI can just help us amplify that voice, and
Totally.
also not to totally rely on it to, take your job of cooking Thanksgiving dinner, but maybe let it help you chop the onions a little bit. Let it help you
Sure.
do your job so that you can be a better chef or a better salesman or a better project lead or a better
Mhm.
engineer or whatever. That's pretty much it, right?
I would say, and I think
Yeah.
the you can't ignore AI. You can't ignore like new trends in technology and marketing and whatever. Um, but you also have to have the foundational components in place, and you can't lose those. So, like
Yeah.
human psychology, like when it comes to marketing, but I think when it comes to any business, because you deal with people, human psychology will stand the test of time. Understanding how humans function, and this is
Hmm.
obviously like a lifelong exploration of mine, certainly, but I think it is for most people. How do humans function? What motivates them? What terrifies them? What excites them? All these types of things. Clarity and organization is going to stand the test of time. So making sure that the things that you understand are clearly communicated and organized so people can actually access them. That goes for
Hmm.
AI tools as well. And
Hmm.
then story, like being able to tell a story stands the
Yeah.
test of time. But the
Yeah.
mediums are always going to change, But if you think about like something funny, whether it's the Three Stooges or it's these new AI videos I've been seeing of chiropractors like throwing grandmothers through the wall. I don't know if you've seen any of these. They are amazing. They are so funny. But so it's just slapstick comedy. But before it was three dudes bopping each other on the head, with a hammer. That was
Right.
whatever, however many years ago. And now it's computer generated, chiropractors that are, throwing grandmas around a room and they're happy with their chiropractic adjustment. Uh,
Uh,
but funny is always going to be there, right?
yeah.
People love funny, feeling
Yes.
understood is
Yes.
going to cause someone to lean in to what you have to say.
Yeah.
Speaking to somebody's fear and offering them hope.
Yeah.
That's always going to generate a response uh, in your
That's good.
direction, really. So these are ancient principles, and they're always going to be there, even if the mediums change. So I think
Yeah.
don't throw out the old just to like chase after the new. I think you
Right.
have to. I think the old is way more important than some people are giving. Uh, some people are like think it is,
Yeah.
and they're always chasing after this new, easier, more convenient,
Yeah.
more
I'm guilty of
microwave
that.
version of success. But I don't think you can. Now I'm 38 years old. I've been in business for 10 years. I'm not by any means an expert in success or business or any of this type of stuff. But what I've observed over the years and in working with lots and lots of different people is I think
Hmm.
the foundational stuff you can never cease with the foundational stuff and it will
Yeah.
always serve you well.
I agree. 100% agree. Mike, this has been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I'm sure people found value out of this. Just even like a lot of just ideas sparking in their head for maybe things to do to kind of build their brand. And we might have to do a totally second one because you mentioned something at the end about like telling a story, which you could just talk about for a whole long time. But I think that that's equally important. But I feel like you brought so much value to people. And so thank you. And thank you for being on here. How can people find you? Like if they just want to connect with you, or let's say they want your services or just follow you, how can they find you? How can they find Houston?
Yeah, so you could go to our website, Hueston.co. It's spelled Hueston. Um, you could find us on Instagram too. That's probably the two best places to connect.
Amazing. All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being on here. And folks, thanks for tuning in to the Vibe Exchange. Till next time, I'm Joseph Tucker and Michael Williams, everybody. Thanks, guys. See
Thanks,
ya.
Joe. See ya.